Another major piece of news this week surrounded the common construction wage. The 80-year-old law that sets the kind of minimum wage construction workers can be paid on government-funded projects is being repealed, pending the governor's signature. Gretchen Frazee has more.
Construction sign orange and neon yellow t-shirts painted the lawn of the state capitol Monday as more than 2,000 construction workers and contractors rallied in hopes they could stop lawmakers from repealing the common construction wage.
Enough is enough. Just vote no.
These men and women say the state's common construction wage ensures they earn enough to feed their families, while still paying for out-of-pocket travel expenses they incur while working on projects across the state.
Look around yourselves here. Tell me, who around you here, what construction worker makes too much money? You see any? This is not the problem. This wage is not the problem with our construction industry. It starts right here.
Senator Alting is a nay.
Lawmakers who voted 2 days later to eliminate the wage requirement and the people who asked them to do so argue allowing the free market to set wages will save taxpayers money.
We believe there will be significant savings, could be 10-20% on public works. Taxpayers should get the same bang for their buck as private work.
What remains to be seen is how that savings is actually achieved.
Right now the system marks the wages up by about 20%. There's also savings in regards to work jurisdictional rules, which workers can do this or that, you know, the mix of workers on the job from skilled, unskilled, and semi-skilled.
Some supporters of the common wage law predict much of the savings will come from hiring cheaper out-of-state workers who don't abide by Indiana's strict quality and safety guidelines.
When the transient, unskilled construction workers flood our state, which they most certainly will, those folks who have worked so hard to take care of their families here in Indiana will not be able to work on the very projects that they pay for via their taxes.
And if Indiana workers aren't getting paid well to work on projects in their own state, contractors say they won't be able to recruit new workers into the field. That could lead to a construction labor shortage. An amendment the Senate added to the bill aims to address that problem by putting more resources into construction training programs and marketing the industry to students.
This is a topic that will have consequences for years to come, but as we mentioned, people have very different views about what those consequences are. Indiana Business Research Center Director of Economic Analysis, Tim Slayer, is here to provide us an economist perspective on the matter. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's start with the supporters' argument that repealing this law will save taxpayer money. Will it?
Will it save taxpayers money?
Yeah.
I think that would be undetermined because I think there's a new provision in it where they have e-verify. You have to remember that the thing really driving construction costs and many of the wages is illegal immigration. And if you stop cash payments and e-verify, you might find that it's actually a net benefit to many of the labor occupations on a construction site.
When we start talking about perhaps saving some of this money, exactly how much are we talking about in terms of state and local governments?
There could be about 10 to 12%. Some studies at Oregon State University was almost even 35% savings as a result, or additional costs as a result of Davis-Bacon, or the prevailing wage. There was a brief period of time in Florida back in the 70s where they exempted school construction from those provisions, and they estimated they saved about 13 to 15% as a result of that.
So some cities are strapped for money, and I talked with Mayor Cruzan from Bloomington earlier this week about this, and he quoted several other mayors as well who were opposing this legislation, which at first you would think would be the opposite. But why are their opponents against repealing this measure?
I can't speak for the mayor. I do know that there are certain political alignments related to certain politicians and labor unions, and the labor unions don't feel as though this is a good deal for them. As if you were saving that much money, where does that money necessarily come from? Mm-hmm. Well, it may come indeed from certain paychecks So that is an issue, and some of the supporters, and this might be one of their more legitimate arguments, in terms of the apprenticeships and all the rest of it, in terms of the training, there wouldn't be a natural mechanism for that without, say, establishing other programs, without those additional funds going to the unions and their apprenticeship programs.
And that's what he was talking about, the lack of quality protections or labor shortage. Is that a possibility?
Well, you say labor shortage in construction. Can you tell me what labor shortage at a hospital looks like? You've got surgeons, you've got nurses, you've got orderlies, custodians, people. There may be a shortage in one element of that, but in terms across the board, no, there wouldn't be. In the lower skilled, you're going to see that there's no shortage there whatsoever. Would there be a shortage in terms of crane operators or electricians, steam fitters? Quite possibly. But that is you know, the market does work, and if you remunerate those people well enough, it makes all the sense in the world to get the training that you need to get in order to be a steam fitter or an electrician.
Thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.